You actually talked about that in next episode.
Let me start that just section.
Yeah.
Just going to do that. So Yay, you're here. Welcome to How to Be a Grown-Up with CK and GK. Let's get started. Hello, friends. We're so glad you're here today. Welcome to How to Be a Grown-Up. This is the how-to show with hosts who have medication that helps them be grown-ups.
Yeah.
So
I love you,
hooray.
Edzeners.
Yep. Better living through pharmacy life, right? Through pharmacology. Okay. I'm Caitlin, and with me today, co-hosting for Jenny, is Ariella Monti, the author of my favorite spicy novel, Roots in Ink. And she is a velvet-voiced tornado of brilliance and kindness.
Oh, I love it.
Thanks.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just a matter of taking a bunch of adjectives and smooshing them into a thing, right?
That's basically my writing strategy.
This is why I need series. Otherwise, I will go off on rampages. Okay. So today we're continuing that series on ADHD with a conversation about burnout and in particular masking. So I have a story that I'm going to share with you, dear listener, and you, because you're here suffering on this episode with me, Ariella. Okay. So here's the story. While I was teaching here in Texas, before Jenny and I really got super close, but we had started being friends and like had each other's phone numbers at this point. I remember her sending me a text that said, this is why, and I'm going to insert a comment here, our friend, right? This is why Ashley and I, Ashley's my friend, want to be you when we grow up. So this is why we want to be you when we grow up. Like, okay. I just remember thinking in that moment, I get this text and I'm like, what? This is insane. Why does anybody want to be me when they grow up? And I bet Jenny is sitting there going like, I still want to be Caitlin when I grow up. Like I could hear her being like, yup, still. But now she knows more about what the chaos that is who I am. But I truly, especially in that moment, felt like I was barely holding on to my life, right? I was a new mom at that point. My son was probably less than a year old. Or maybe he was like right around a year and a few months. Okay. I was new to Texas. I'd only been there for a few months, in a new job, which means first year teacher vibes all over again. And if you know, you know. I had no money. My license plates were still Colorado plates, which means the tags were crazy expired. And I had a sinus infection. Like I remember all these things being like, why? I do not have myself together. Why does anyone think that I have myself together? So the compliment, which is still one of my favorite compliments I've ever received, is felt unearned in that moment, right? Like who on earth wants to be this hot mess? But I can see their point when I look back on it. I looked like I had my life together, right? I would come to work. I did my work. I was not a complete crying mess all the time at work, even though I wanted to be. It's my brain that was scrambled up, right? And I was at that point, and I still am, super great at masking. And here's why this matters for moms. Society expects women, especially moms, to be organized, emotionally regulated, self-sacrificing, all qualities that ADHD brains are not wired for.
No.
And it is
all the things we are bad at.
Right, exactly. It is a surefire way to burn yourself out, which is something that moms simply cannot afford to do. This is why we did an entire series on self-care. Moms cannot let burnout be something that they experience. So before we get into more of this, I do need to say, as always, please remember that I am not a doctor. I am not a psychiatrist or any type of health professional, mental or otherwise.
Nor am I. I am a yoga teacher, and that is not the same as a mental health professional, no matter
No.
what your yoga teacher might tell you. Unless your yoga teacher is actually a mental health professional, and my mental health
Right.
professional happens to be a yoga teacher, but that is an exception.
Right. No matter how many essential oils she tries to sell you, she is not a doctor. Okay, so nothing against essential oils. They make my house smell great, but they are not medicine. So my perspective here is my own. I did my research, I promise, but much of this is coming from my personal experience. And I hope that if you happen to see yourself in what I'm talking about today, that you feel validated, remember that you're not alone, and seek help from a mental health professional if that's something that you need. Okay. So my sources for today are myself, obviously, and a couple of articles from Attitude magazine, which we've talked about in the past, ADD magazine. One of them is Why Masking is a Form of Self-Sabotage by Sharon Saline, who's a doctor, and also Natalie Pezentes. And another one that I used was Rising from ADHD Burnout, a recovery kit for women by Kate Morissef. And these are both linked in the blog post for this episode. So please go check that out, along with some other resources that I'll mention along the way. So, what is ADHD masking? I mean, think about what a mask is. Now apply that to your life. And you know those commercials with like the depression, the antidepressant commercials with the person who like wears the little smiley face piece of paper on a stick?
Yep.
It's a mask. Yeah. Okay. So this quote from one of the articles really kind of hit me. It was exactly what I described in the message from Jenny. I appear very organized to the outside world, but only because I spend an immense amount of time and energy putting everything together.
Yeah.
Right?
That's relatable.
Mm-hmm. Masking is a coping strategy. Okay. So what it means is you're camouflaging your ADHD traits to fit in. Maybe that's forcing your focus, hiding your forgetfulness, mimicking neurotypical habits, or mimicking other people's behaviors. And lots of neurodivergent people do it. It's common in autism as well. But again, we talked about that overlap is really common, but there are lots of other neurodivergent types that will do this. It starts out being helpful. Again, coping strategy. But it starts to get exhausting, and we'll talk about why in just a minute. Masking is more common in women than it is in men for a couple of reasons. Again, one of the ones I already mentioned, we'll get to, but there's this general fear of being called flaky or lazy or too much, right? Nobody wants to be called these things. They're negative, doesn't feel good. The other is that societal conditioning that I mentioned a little bit ago to be pleasing and competent. And all of that tends to create certain types of behaviors or habits that are compensatory for these ADHD symptoms. Okay. So some examples might be you stay late at work to over prepare for a meeting that you have the next day. Because you were distracted by something, so you had some time blindness on some other task, right? Or you say, I forgot my planner, instead of saying, I actually lost it again, my fifth one this year, whatever, no big deal. So you're trying to avoid shame with a lie, okay? Mimicking other moms' routines, even when they don't work for your brain. Mimicking other behaviors, as I mentioned, maybe dressing the same way or showing up with the same new Stanley water bottle, whatever it is. Sometimes these behaviors sort of come out, and they're common among moms. The issue is that there are a lot of negative consequences that come along with masking. The first one of them being delayed and or sabotage diagnosis of ADHD. And this one kind of speaks for itself here. And one thing I always said to my students was, if you go to the doctor for a stomach ache or a broken bone, but you don't actually tell the doctor what's wrong with you, how is the doctor supposed to give you the treatment that you need? The same goes for your academics. If you don't tell me what help you need, I cannot support you. I think the connection between that metaphor and mental health is pretty obvious here.
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
You have to be vocal about your struggles, okay? And show them to people. You can't hide them. Otherwise, you won't get the help you need. So another consequence is the inability to find things that work for their brain. So because you maybe don't realize that you've sabotaged your diagnosis, or you don't realize that you have ADHD, or you haven't accepted that that's what's going on with your brain, you can then not figure out what actually works for you, right? Like when you put your faith in this new planner,
that's going to be the one. That's
right.
the one.
Right. This is the one that will make everything better because it doesn't have dates on it. So when I skip months at a time, it won't make me feel bad. Except then you stop using it because it doesn't have dates on it. Right? Like there's all of these things that, you know, you end up putting your faith in that don't actually work for you.
Right.
Another consequence, this is a big one, and we've talked about it before, is that comorbidities piece. Other mental health disorders often develop as a result of masking because all of that worry and stress of covering up your ADHD behaviors, your symptoms, who you really are, can lead to anxiety and depression and burnout. This one, I feel like someone was maybe talking to me directly and is shaking me at the moment. So I'm just going to put this here. And Jenny is going to be like, I told you, girl. Perfectionism. Huh. So I have to read this quote because it's just so good. Overly sensitive to their own perceived faults, people who mask may also be hyper aware of those traits in others and even develop an intolerance for them. Perfectionism combined with impostor syndrome can also intensify rejection sensitivity dysphoria. If something isn't perfect, then it can be seen as another failure, adding to a sense of personal worthlessness. Ugh. In case you didn't need therapy before, you might now after that quote. So in the article, one of the articles I mentioned earlier, there's one woman who said she spent so much of her early years being late to stuff that now she's obsessed with being on time. And when other people are late, she views that as a personal attack on herself. Like,
yeah.
Hi, RSD. Like, that's what that is, right? It's someone else's tardiness is not a reflection of you. I know the phrase honor your time is a big one right now. And it's true. You do need to honor people's time. At the same time, someone else's lateness is not someone telling you that you are not worth their time, right? So just keeping that in mind. But also, it's very like Hector projector to hate someone else's tardiness when you know you have a history of tardiness, right? Okay, another consequence of masking. And this one is also very real for me. Imposter syndrome, poor self-esteem, and this sense of like, who even am I feeling, right? And I'll explain why. So as I mentioned, masking is a coping strategy, and people with ADHD mask because they feel inadequate. The failures stick out in their brains more so than any win. The wins get overlooked. And we're talking about things like not taking credit for your work, saying something was a team effort when it really wasn't. You did because you did all the work. Calling something good luck when really the good luck was just that you worked hard, right? It's more than humility. It's completely dismissing any contribution that you made to the success of whatever the victory was. And then all that does is make you feel like bad about yourself because you are not responsible for any of the success. It's not helpful. And all of that time, literally pretending to be someone else, could just be whoever you're around in that moment, creates this very distorted sense of who you are. So when you realize that who you think you are is just a masked version of your real self, you can see how that might make someone feel incredibly lost in who they are, right? That one hurts a little bit. Again, therapy is something I need to go find it, my new therapist. So
I mean, like, how often have I just like dropped something and you and our other mom friends would be like, Ariella, that's amazing. And I'm just like,
yeah,
but like
Yeah.
all the time.
I
Like,
quite literally just did this yesterday. I built this web page for a client. It is, if I may say so, pretty great. I worked really hard on it for days, and it's about to go live. And I did get some input and feedback from people on the team, and so I can't say I did everything myself. And I, got some support from AI and things like that, and lots of research, whatever. But ultimately, I did put this page together. And the first thing I said was, "Oh no, it's a team effort." Not really, but okay. Yeah, me and DeepSeek hanging out together, but like otherwise, no, like I really did most of the work myself, and I literally just did it. Like, what? Anyway, so there is a link also between masking and burnout. And I did mention burnout earlier as one of the consequences of masking. And here's how this connection works. Masking is hard. And people don't realize how difficult it actually is, because if they're not doing it, they don't get it, right? It's like teaching. If you're not in the trenches,
absolutely.
you just
Right.
don't know. So it's really hard to maintain. And it keeps people from getting to know who you really are. So you kind of block people out a little bit. And again, that includes yourself. So it gets a little bit lonely. And when you're on the verge of burnout, you need people to support you, right? And it only takes you so far, because you really can't mimic your way into successful work and social habits. Yeah. And I'd like to define burnout here, because I think we need to know what it actually is. Burnout is chronic stress. Let's try that one more time. Burnout, I'm going to leave that in just so you can hear me flub my word. Burnout is chronic stress plus emotional depletion and feeling ineffective altogether. Okay. So ADHDers tend to burn out faster because masking requires extra mental effort. It's like speaking a second language all day long. I don't know if you've ever seen, I don't know how familiar you are with Modern Family, but I love that show. And there's a scene where Sofia Vergara says, "Do you know how smart I would be if I could speak in my own language? But I'm having to explain what I'm thinking in a language that isn't my own. So I'm doing twice the thinking," right? And that's really what's happening here. I don't know about you, Ariel, but I personally feel like I have to work so hard just to get things crossed off my to-do list. And I'll watch my boss, and she's like cranking out stuff. She's like, "Well, I did this draft of this page, and then I wrote this blog, and then I, worked on this too, and I'm going to be back in a minute." I'm like, how did you do 3 things in 5 hours? And here I am still working on the same one. How did you do that?
Yeah.
I admire it,
Mhm.
and I question like how she does that.
Yeah.
Because I'm working twice as hard to get one thing done.
Yep. Yeah. It happens to me all the time, especially thinking like, oh, I've got a block of 4 hours to work today. I should be able to, say, finish an entire chapter. Like, yeah, I could do that. And then it takes my brain so much work to get those words like from my mind to my fingertips and onto the screen. And like the 4 hours is gone, and I only have like 200 words written down. Like
It's really hard. And there's another piece of this too that you just mentioned, where you just said, get a chapter done. But there's so much that goes into that, and our brains don't think of it as one task. We think of it as like the 15 tasks. I have to sit down. I have to power my computer up. I have to open up the document. I have to this and this and this and this and this. Oh, I have to have this window in this position because I work on this window, but I look at this one for all my reference. Like there's so many little things that require your attention that one task, it's not that you didn't get anything done. It's that you can't estimate how much time the other little tasks are going to take you. You have time blindness. We have no sense of how long things take. And then also it's more effort for us to get through the little things too. So that can totally cause burnout. As I've mentioned before, the phrase, the work between the work, that's what gets us, right? And then you add to it that there's the emotional labor of suppressing emotions like your RSD meltdowns. That is also exhausting. There's that sense of anxiety that comes from underperforming that's exhausting. There is ADHDers struggle with emotional regulation as it is. We go hot, cold really quickly. It's seriously 0 to 100 on some things, or we don't quite know what our emotions are until something triggers us and we're actually angry and we didn't know we were angry. So that can lead to a lot of burnout for people. And then you add for moms don't get true downtime most of the time.
No.
Recovery requires rest. Moms don't get rest. So I just want to put out some signs you might be feeling burned out and not just tired. I'm going to put this here. Constant overwhelm, irritability, and numbness to what's going on around you. Physical symptoms like headaches, insomnia, getting sick often, like stomach aches, things like that. And then also just the general sense of feeling like a failure, even though you're doing a lot of things. Those are burnout symptoms. Please seek help and get rest if you are experiencing them. So I think the big thing we need to talk about here is how to actually unmask yourself if you find yourself exhibiting these behaviors. So here are some practical strategies to reduce your masking, conserve your energy, and do so without becoming unglued. So, one, you're going to try to identify your masks. ADHDers are terrible at metacognition, as in thinking about your thinking. So you might actually have to write some things down here. You might say, where am I performing as a normie, neurotypical, instead of honoring my brain? Like, when is it the Caitlin show, right? When do I do that so that I can identify that as a trigger, whatever that is that's causing me to be a normie in those moments? I can write that down as a space to stop and reconsider. How am I trying to keep up appearances? Am I posting pictures of my house in this perfectly staged, clean area and then behind me is a mess? For me, no, my house is just a mess and you can come right in and it's fine. But I will be embarrassed that you're seeing it. So there's that. But what parts of yourself do you actively find yourself hiding from others? This is something I do in private. Nobody else knows about it. And I won't ever talk about it. That's a masking behavior, right? If it means watching pimple popping videos, I do that too, so don't worry about it. Okay, so the next thing you need to do, so gross, is drop the shoulds. For example...
Oh, I'm so bad at this.
This is so hard. It's so hard. For example, if visual clutter, like what I was just talking about, doesn't bother you, then don't apologize for it because it doesn't bother you, right? If it's in your house, you don't need to apologize for it because you live there, not someone else. If they don't like it, then they don't have to have a house that has visual clutter in it. There we go. Should is a bad word in the mental health space. Maybe you've heard the phrase, stop shoulding all over yourself. It's true and it's real. And it just brings shame on yourself. So you really need to let it go. I loved this resource from Attitude Magazine. It's called Squirrel Bingo.
I'm in.
I know, right? Me too. It's an anti-shame game. It's literally a bingo game so that you can
that's amazing.
Yeah, feel shame about certain things. I linked it in the blog post for the episode. I'm going to start playing it because, first of all, gamifying anything for an ADHDer is a win. And then anything that's going to make me not be ashamed of things I don't need to be ashamed of is another win. So I'm going to do it. And let me know if you play. I want to hear about it. Put it in the DMs, share a picture, tag us. I want to know. Another thing you need to do to unmask is practice self-compassion. We have talked about this so much on this show, but I need to share this quote from an ADHD coach. Her name is Linda. I am going to say her name wrong. I think it's Rosalie, but might be pronounced a different way. So sorry, Linda. Apologies in advance. Her quote is, "Your masks have protected you in the past, but release them with love." So it's time to start practicing talking to yourself in a kind way. I think I've shared this before and you've probably heard me say it, but my friend Elsie did not like it when I said something negative about myself, and she would correct me by saying, "Don't talk about my friend that way." I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so stupid." And she's like, "Don't talk about my friend that way." And I'm pretty sure I've said it to you.
Oh yeah. And I picked it up and now I say it to the child when he says stuff like that.
Yeah.
I said, don't talk about my friend that way. And then I have to explain what that means. And
yeah. I will say it to my son, and I'll say, "Don't talk about my son that way." Like, you know, I mean, you could change it that way, but I have started saying this to not just my friends and not just my family, but also myself, because I got to be my own friend sometimes, right? So I will say, "Don't talk about my friend that way," and to myself when I hear myself saying things like that. And I actually did it to myself as I was writing the notes for this episode. It's like, oh my God. It was an interesting situation. Okay. Remember that part of self-compassion and self-care is self-advocacy. Asking for help is not only okay, but it's a good thing. And it will ease the pain of taking off that mask a little bit. The problem with self-advocacy for ADHDers is that we often have a hard time identifying what our needs actually are. So I like to say it's independence. It's really not. It's like fake independence.
Yeah.
I don't really know. But stopping to think, what am I afraid of? And what do I need may help you find some solutions for, for whatever's going on. And something that's scary for people, including myself and other people I know, is reevaluating your boundaries. That may come as a result of you asking yourself, what do I need? It might mean that you need to reevaluate your boundaries around a certain person, or for yourself, like, what keeps me safe, what, things like that. And that can be a little bit frightening, and just putting that out there as a warning to people who are doing this. And don't forget that your sense of humor has a real place in self-compassion. Laughing just feels good. Lean into opportunities to do that so that when your ADHD symptoms show up in a funny way, it's okay to laugh about it. I mean, that's really why Ariel and I are doing this, because the things our brains do, I cannot tell you how many cabinet doors I have left open just in the past couple. It's a lot. I think we started calling it the ghost in my house. The ghost left the cabinet open. Oh. She needs a name. It's got to be a woman. It needs like an old lady name. Help me think of one.
Mildred.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Mildred left the cabinet open again. Dang it, Mildred. Okay. The next one is outsource and adapt. So use tools like meal kits and automatic bill pay and other things like that instead of forcing traditional systems for yourself. Automatic bill pay is my favorite thing in the world. Otherwise, I would forget to pay everything. And I often do forget to pay bills that come to me, even though I know that they're there. I will see them and then they're away from my brain because they're not right in front of me anymore. So, and again, if you're just starting this journey of unmasking and trying to find things that work for you, I would say there is no better hyperfixation than learning about your own brain. Honestly.
Yeah.
empower yourself with information. Attitude Magazine is a fabulous resource if you don't know where to start. I love Reddit always for tried and true practical things that people are willing to share with you. Like, it is okay to go and be hyperfixated on your brain for a little while to learn about yourself and what your needs are. And my another one of my favorites, find your people. And I'm going to say this with love. You masked for a reason, and that's because there are people out there who are mean and crappy. And yes, it's true that people might react negatively as you start to unmask yourself and show who you really are. But this is not middle school, and you are not obligated to carry the weight of other people's opinions about you. So those opinions should not dictate how you live your life. Now, sometimes you're in a situation with work, you have to tolerate someone's opinion of you. It's your boss, it's someone, whatever. I get that. However, that person does not matter in any other capacity but your job. So leave that mess at the job and separate yourself from it as soon as you walk out the door. Okay.
And adding to that, you might find as you learn about your ADHD that you have already surrounded yourself with other ADHD people who just don't know that they're ADHD. And as you all start to unmask together, it just brings you closer.
When there was some meme about that I saw that was like, all of my friends have ADHD and I don't, but I have, but I see this in common and all. And the person was like, hate to break it to you, pal, but there's a reason all of your friends have ADHD, right? Because you also have it. All of you weirdos get together. Okay. That also might mean, in addition to the weirdos who love you, that you find other ADHD friendly people who don't judge. Maybe that's a professional therapist or an ADHD coach. If any are listening, I need help. Maybe that's other ADHDers. Maybe that's especially other ADHDers who maybe you identify with in some way, maybe same gender norms, same sexual orientation, racially, something like that might be also a really good crew for you to be with. And, you know, hopefully you have other people in your life. Like, my partner does not have ADHD. However, he is very compassionate and understanding and is encouraging me to ask for the things that I need and advocate for myself. And I hope that that's someone, even if they're neurotypical, you have someone in your life like that. And the last one I'm going to also say with love, and I really want to swear here, but this is a non-swearing show, so I'm going to say it as best I can. Schedule rest like it's a meeting. If you're experiencing burnout recovery requires actual rest, not watching pimple popping videos in your bed on YouTube late at night, Caitlin. So, Mama, I say this to you with all the love in the world, and here's where I want to swear. Go the F to sleep. Do not stay up. Do not take your alone time at night when everyone else is asleep. Do that for 15 minutes and go to bed. Put nap on the family calendar and then go the F to sleep. Do it. Your brain needs it, and nothing is more important than your rest, my dear. Not one single thing. Because literally, moms cannot afford to be burnt out. So
I'm nodding.
You're nodding.
Like,
You're
I
nodding,
agree with you as I, continue to ignore the get ready for bed alarm that goes off.
You're smart to
Sunday
have an alarm.
through Thursday. I mean, but I ignore it like every single day. So
we'll get better at it. We'll get better. Okay, so in conclusion, as a 7th grader would finish their essay, in conclusion, no, to wrap this up, I have to say, think of masking like Spanx, folks. It's uncomfortable. And who cares if you're wearing it? Because as the very intelligent founder of the We Do Not Care Club, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go look it up. It's hilarious. Says, we do not care. So no one cares if you wear your mask, if you're around the right people. Like, put it down. I'll be your friend. So reach out. So I'm curious, if you're listening to this, if you have a mask that you'd like to drop, I would love to hear about it. Please, again, send us a DM, tag us, tell me about it, because I'm super curious. And let's take a quick break. Hey, y'all. POV, you find a diary exposing forbidden magic, and the hot museum caretaker's life depends on you burning it. Roots in Ink, the debut novel by Ariella Monti, is the fantasy romance for rebels. Use promo code CK and GK to get 20% off your copy at ariellamonti.com. Again, that's all caps CKANDGK for 20% off on ariellamonti.com. Get your copy for 20% off today. We are back now, and because we're talking about ADHD, we've renamed our circle time stuff to hyperfixations and things we finally got done. So ridiculous and so needed. Okay, what do you have a hyperfixation right now? And tell me all about it.
I don't know.
See,
I don't think I
metacognition.
have
We're so
one.
bad at it. Okay, well then I'll share mine. Are you ready?
I'm sure. Well, now I'm looking at the script.
There it is. There
Your
it is.
your hyperfixation is definitely an ongoing hyperfixation of mine. So let's talk about it.
Okay, my script says birds. Verb. I've had this thing with like trying to make sure my bird feeders in my yard are always full. I have bird feeders that squirrels cannot get into until Mother's Day, when I got one of those bird feeders that has a camera on it. And I'm so into this, you guys. Like, and you know that Bird is the Word song that they have all the time in Family Guy? I've been singing that, but like with burb, with BIRB instead of bird. I cannot get enough of this camera. And then the squirrels started eating all the food, and these little squirrels, like, they scooped all the food out of it and onto the ground. It was teamwork. I saw two of them. One of them on the camera, I'm watching scoop everything onto the ground. So I go out and check, and yep, there it is, just scooping everything onto the ground, emptied the entire feeder, and the other squirrel is underneath. Like, what is happening here? So now I've bought new spicy food, because birds are immune to capsaicin, which is what the spice is, and squirrels are not. So I'm hoping that by putting that in the feeder with the camera, the squirrels learn to stay away from it and only the birds eat it. But I have seen blue jays. I have a cardinal couple that shows up, and there's a little girl who is just as all sassy as can be, and she puts her mohawk up and shows me her butt on a regular basis. And then one time she looked in the camera like, who's in here? And it was really funny. I have a pair of doves that show up, but I'm hoping that with this new spicy food that other birds show up too, because they tend to like this. It's like suet based or something. I don't know, whatever. I don't know anything about this, but I'm hyper fixated on these birds. Verbs. Verb. Anyway, if I will actually start posting some of these pictures, because you guys, some of them are so funny.
They are pretty amazing.
Aren't they so cool? Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I'll have to also share with the crowd the picture of the squirrel in my window feeder.
Oh, and that was wild. How did it get up that high? And there's nothing for it to like launch itself from. I don't understand.
Yeah. So this, for the for the listeners who don't know what my house looks like. Yeah. So my office has a window and it's on the second floor. And on that window, I've put one of those like suction cup feeders. And it's been there, if I want to say like 2-ish years. It's been here for a while. And there is so maybe like 6 or so feet in one direction. There is like a little like overhang for our porch. And then on the other side, maybe like 4 or so feet away, is the overhang for the side door. So there is like something that they can kind of launch themselves from, but there's like nothing else there. It's just the windowsill. So they are launching themselves, or I think it's just one of them, launching herself. I'm pretty sure it's a female, launching herself from the overhang to the feeder and just hanging out, having a blast.
Yeah, you have to share that picture. You have to, because it's pretty wild.
Right. And
So crafty.
the funniest part about it is that there are easier feeders to access. Like I purposely put food out in
for the squirrels.
For the squirrels. Like I give them peanuts, and I purposely put, feeders that are not squirrel proof out there so that if they do dump it, like it's fine. But yeah, this one, my worry is that these suction cups are going to give out and the entire thing is going to come crashing down to the ground. I mean, I think from what I've learned from, those Mark Rober videos with like the squirrel Olympics and stuff, the squirrel will probably be okay. But still, I'm like waiting for this thing to go crashing down onto the pavement below.
That would be awful. Well, it's not the fall that'll kill it, it's the bounce. So whatever.
Right.
But we've been talking about my burb obsession, and that's where this picture came from, and it is wild. So I hope you share it because it's pretty crazy. Like I have no idea how it had to launch itself. Like that's the only thing it could have done.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Things that we finally accomplished this week. Do you have a thing?
I do, but I can't remember. I'm actually looking at like my brain dump thing. I'm like, what did I do this week? Like I definitely did stuff, but what was it? Like, what did I do? Like, I'm sure I did something that I've been putting off, but like, what? I don't know.
As I'm saying things like ADHDers are terrible at thinking about their thinking. Like, what? Like, terrible at taking credit for things that we accomplished. Like,
but this is why, like, you got to write down all the things that you've accomplished, because otherwise, like, it's just never going to happen. I guess the one thing I did early, how's this? The thing that I did early was reformat. So I've got my 2 novellas are there are certain trim size. They're like 5x7 or whatever. And I decided to reformat them so that they are smaller. They're 4x6-ish, which is what we call like mass market paperback size. So those are like the paperbacks that like your mom or grandma used to get at like the grocery store with like Fabio on the cover. Yeah. So they're like that size. So my cover designer was going to work on those this month, and I got into my software and I went and reformatted everything so I could send her some templates, and I was like, yes, I got done early.
Nice.
And then she got done early. She worked on it like 2 weeks early. So now
that's amazing.
Yeah, now I can get those out.
Yeah, that's great. I'm thinking like purse sized. Like that's what I have in my head is like you could buy it at the grocery store and then you could shove it in your purse.
That's exactly one of the that's basically why they were made like that, so that they could be like shoved, they could be discreet and hidden. Hide your so smut in your bag.
But it's got Fabio on the cover. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
There's nothing discreet.
No.
Anyway,
that's why you have to hide them in your bag.
Right. That's true. Yeah. Couldn't read them on the subway like some people are doing these days. Anyway, my thing is, and I can't even take all the credit for it because I literally cannot, is planning my child's birthday party. My husband took the reins and scheduled at the place. So again, that's why I can't take credit. This is not me being humble here. This is no, he actually did this. And then I designed the invitation, of course, with my child's input and like put all the information together. And now the only thing I have left to do is find the missing email addresses for the parents and send it out. Now that hurdle is going to be a problem. And I know I need to do it. So it's actually like in my head that I need to do that today because my son's birthday is in a month and it's over the summer and I want families to have enough time to plan and decide and whatever. So anyway, I'm very proud of myself for at least getting that far in the planning.
Yes.
Progress is wellness, right?
Yes.
Right.
You are already farther than I am with my son's birthday, which is only like a week after your son's birthday. And
it's more than that, though.
Is it?
It's 2 weeks. Yeah, it's 2 weeks. So you got time.
2 weeks.
You got time.
I mean, I know it. Thankfully, he just wants a like splash, like a backyard splash party. And
Perfect.
I was like, cool. Give me the name of like 5 friends.
Yep.
And thankfully, I think I know all those 5 people. So
That's great. Yeah, I do not know these people. And I also am telling, I'm going to just, if you're planning a birthday party, we've talked about this before, we've done like birthday party episodes, please inform the parents whether or not they need to stay. This is a self-contained location, and we are at the stage of life where parents do not need to stay anymore. So I am telling all the parents, we don't know each other. Like, feel free to drop your kid off and then leave. Like, and then just come back in 2 hours. Like, it's fine. So that's one of the benefits of not knowing the parents as your child gets older, is that you can then say, we're all going to be in this one space in public and you don't have to stay if you don't want. You can watch them jump on trampolines. I don't care, but you don't have to stay. So anyway, accomplishments checked off. So we're going to wrap this episode by saying, as always, as Jenny would say, make good choices and love you, mean it. Bye.
bye.
Hey friends, thanks for listening to the CK and GK podcast. Find us at CK and GK podcast on Instagram and Twitter, and rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, or anywhere else that you pod. See you next time.